Hey gang, we're Stanley here. We're here at A1A in Las Olas, marching up Las Olas for the Million Maskless March, which is a mass demonstration against state level and county level mask mandates. We know that the masks never actually did anything, were not effective at reducing transmission rates, and finally the anti-lockdown movement has come here to South Florida. We're sick and tired of these lockdowns. We're sick and tired of these mask mandates. There's hundreds of people here. We're now marching up A1A with a police escort.
That's right. No comments, no
Hundreds of people here. I'll try to show you some of these signs. Again, Bruce Stanley, we're here at the Million Maskless March. Hundreds of people. Try to get some interviews. It's really about time to end these county level mask mandates. We're getting all this praise for being this beacon of freedom, and yet in all the urban areas, we still have county level mask mandates. Why is that? If we're a beacon of freedom, why are we weeks behind Texas now, and yet we're still getting all this praise? It's time to start putting an end to this scamdemic. Now that $2 trillion have been made, notice that the headlines are starting to lose interest now because the scamdemic has served its purpose. It served as cover for the election fraud. We lost 10,000 restaurants here in the state of Florida ever since this scamdemic began. I think that's 10,000 restaurants too many. So we've got a lot of different groups out here. I know we've got the libertarian folks out here. No vaccine passports. I'll try to get some of these signs. I'll try to get up to the head of the march here. They've pretty much let us completely take over the streets. That must explain why the traffic's so bad. I wouldn't try to get to the beach right now if I were you. So it's about time to end these mask mandates. This whole scamdemic was ridiculous. If you look in Italy and Europe, they're way ahead of us when it comes to protesting these lockdowns. I mean, the protests earlier are starting to get violent because they've really had enough. This has nothing to do with a virus. It never did. We still don't know to this day if COVID-19 is even a thing or if it's just the flu. Because the PCR tests have been revealed to be a fraud a long time ago. So, okay. All right, perfect. So we're live. Let's actually talk. Hey guys, my camera died. Bruce Stanley back here at the Million Maskless March. So we're going to talk for a second here about what's happening at Nova, because there's a handful of corporate players that are attempting to circumvent this ban on mandatory vaccine passports by just implementing, as part of their own internal corporate policies, mandatory vaccination. We already know that this goes on in hospital systems, parts of the military, some private employers and businesses require this, and now they're trying to expand the scope of the institutions that are mandating vaccines. Now, this is going to be a huge business, which is why they're doing it. So anybody who's paying attention can see that all our levels of government are completely co-opted by Big Pharma. And so Nova Southeastern University wants to be one of the first institutions down here.
They're the first.
Right. So they're launching the gauntlet here, and it's very important for us to turn this into a campaign to raise awareness about what Nova's trying to do, and it's important for us to assert our fundamental civil rights here, not only for us and for our generation, but for future generations who have no desire and have no benefit in being forced to endure this increased mandatory vaccination schedule. So I don't know if you have a couple words, Ryan, about the campaign.
Right. Well, Nova Southeastern University is the first college in the United United States to try and mandate a vaccine policy for all faculty, staff, and student members. We're talking about an emergency use authorization vaccine only, which by the FDA's own federal guidelines, it's an unenforceable mandate. They have in their own documentation that it takes 2 years for them to be able to even consider approving a vaccine for general use. So you can't mandate an emergency use authorization vaccine. It's that simple. You can check with Chris Ann Hall, and I think it's Liberty First University. She's got paperwork there that you can sign. You can go here and sign our petition at no2nsu.com. And we're trying to get 25,000 signatures to present to Governor DeSantis before their August 1st deadline kicks in, that they're expecting to be able to mandate vaccines for their faculty, staff, and student body. We can't accept this. It's just that simple. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and go to the website here and sign the petition and spread it around. You can spread it from state to state. Let them know nationwide that this is unacceptable. We can't take it.
Thank you, Ryan. Excellent. Yeah. So it's important to understand that the mainstream narrative about everything is completely bogus. So even the notion of Florida as a beacon of freedom, it's important to understand the granular dynamics here, because it's not just Nova. We also have Norwegian Cruise Line down in Miami that wants to be the first cruise line to mandate mandatory vaccines for its passengers. Now, the issue there is that it's already starting to become political, because the Miami-Dade mayor, Danielle Levine-Cava, is siding with Norwegian Cruise Line and the CDC against DeSantis and the vaccine passport mandates. So there's a lot of money and power in the cruise industry that's concentrated in Miami. We're talking about the port of Miami now. This is a real political fight, and it's not entirely clear how this is going to play out. These are two very powerful players. We got a proxy war playing out between Tallahassee and Miami around these vaccine passports. The media's not telling you that story. They're just telling you the story about how everything's wonderful here in Florida. Well, the problem is that Florida's already had issues with growth for decades. So when we have multiple urban areas around the country collapsing for various reasons under terrible Democratic leadership, well, it only exacerbates the already existing growth issues that we have here in the state of Florida. So we're here paused in the middle of the street. This is not a beach day. In case you were thinking of coming to A1A, I'm going to try to get some interviews, because you more than likely know my opinion about this stuff. I'll get some of these signs, my body, my choice. A lot of this is about the informed consent and the arguments around freedom of choice. If someone for whatever reason wants to allow themselves to be experimented on, that's fine. But the issue is we cannot allow this to become mandatory. Isn't that right, Robert Noval? We can't allow these mandatory passports, right? I think we know how Mr. Robert Noval feels about mandatory vaccines, right? It's right there. There's no disputing it. So we have hundreds of people shutting down A1A to send a message that we are sick and tired of these lockdowns. The scamdemic is over. There never was a pandemic. We never had the numbers for a pandemic. The inventor of the PCR test said that they were never intended to be used as a diagnostic tool. That's the number one tool that we're using to determine case counts. The PCR tests were not a diagnostic tool. They're not telling you that you have anything. That's according to the inventor, Kerry Mullis. Look up those Kerry Mullis videos. Those should have already circulated. We're past this now. And yet, for whatever reason, because the mask mandates remain in place, because this fear propaganda remains in place, people are still walking around in masks. They're walking around, they have their kids in masks on the beach. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? It's because the propaganda machine has control of people's minds. There's this narrative that's more powerful than the facts on the ground and actual reality. That's where we're at. Because now it's not just propaganda. The propaganda is interfacing with these psyops and false flags, and people are accepting all this as reality. And it's confusing. It's just driving confusion. So what's impossible is getting just straight answers on anything. Is COVID-19 even really a thing, or is it just the flu? We don't know. Is this an unusually contagious, unusually deadly strain of flu? Maybe it is, but if you can brand it And then you talk about these variants. All of us now we're making money, right? There's so much money being made off the scamdemic. That's why I call it the scamdemic. This is more about an economic transformation, an assault on small businesses, a repeat of the global financial crisis, and a bailout twice as large as the one in 2008. Only this time, no one complains because they want to line up for all their goodies. So they figured out in 2008, we could pass another $1 trillion bailout, just double the size of it, and shake off some crumbs for the masses, and no one will complain. And that's exactly what they got away with. So what happens is we're continuing to lose our rights in this post 9/11 PSYOP land environment. And at some point, you have to draw a line. You see all these people here? Hundreds of people here on the beach are drawing a line. I can't remember the last time I've been a part of a protest this big. This is massive. Take a look at this. The last one of these I came to, there was about a dozen people. People are fed up. Scamdemic is ridiculous. It's time to open up the economies. How are we going to get back 10,000 restaurants? How are we going to get all those jobs back? The purpose of this globalist takeover is not to return things back to normal. The concept of the new normal is about the technocratic agenda. It's about this discussion around imposing cryptocurrencies as a form of currency. We have to have a conversation about this. I mean, if cryptocurrency is an investment vehicle, cryptocurrencies to evade financial blockades, that's one thing. Cryptocurrencies, we already have. The U.S. dollar's lost 96% of its value since the founding of the Federal Reserve. So instead of having a conversation about monetary reform, we're going to talk about taking cryptocurrencies that have no backing, no value, no backing, and just replace the digital dollars with the worthless cryptocurrency. This is not a smart idea, okay? It's just called currency debasement, and I would suggest you look into research the history of currency debasement and research what happens when empires start debasing their currency. Back in the day, they had metal coins, and so they would just add copper to the silver coins, and it just eroded the value until eventually the purchasing power falls apart. We've had hidden asset price inflation ever since the financial crisis. Notice it's hidden in the food costs. It's hidden in the food. It's in the grocery bill. That's where the asset price inflation is going. So we never recovered from the financial crisis. And when you allow these players to get away with these kinds of mass-scale, state-sponsored false flags, psyops, they only get more bold. They only get bigger. So, any words, Robert? I'm just going to go off here about PSYOP land. Any words about our current situation and just overall thoughts on the scamdemic?
Well, the chickens have come home to roost. The Washington Empire has finally turned on its taxpayers. This is war, just as it was war against the people of Libya, just as it was war against the people of Iraq. This is war against Americans. They're not dropping bombs on us because they need us to be able to tax us. But this is that same war. The chickens come home to roost. It's time to stand up and tell them no!
Thank you, Robert. Exactly. Let's not forget. Let's talk a little bit about the stolen election, because I think we're in constitutionally unprecedented territory. At least the 1876 election got resolved in the House. This election never got resolved at all because you're just not allowed to talk about the elections law that we all know occurred. So we have a coup government that's a coup government that advertised itself as the most legitimate government of all time. That's how the legitimate immediately it starts its political enemies, which happen to be all Americans. Thank you, Robert. That's exactly right. We're losing our rights. We lost our sovereignty over 100 years ago. If we're actually going to fight back against this, we need to start getting on the same page about power, about who has power, and what the agenda of that power is. State-sponsored false flags are on the menu.
This coup, it's just another version, another chapter in and what happened in Ukraine, and what they tried and failed to do in Venezuela, what they did in Guatemala, what they did in Iran in 1953. This is that same kind of coup, okay? Stand up and face it. Stand up and say no.
No more masks! No more masks! No more masks! No more masks!
No more masks! We want smiles! We want smiles! We want smiles! We want smiles!
Yeah, to clarify it, a lot of this rhetoric is, you typically hear this on the political right, which is why there's a perception that it's only Trump supporters who are talking about election fraud, right? Right, yeah, no, not at all. If you're an American, you should care about election fraud, irrespective of whether or not you're a Trump supporter, whoever. I'm sure there's plenty of Democrats that know that the election was stolen too, okay? This is constitutionally unprecedented territory. Every single surface, every single billboard is, oh, do your job. Please just take your vaccine. Just do your job. It's all marketing and sales and advertising techniques. Talking about the scarcity, talking about the demand. Who do you think's paying for the vaccine, by the way?
No more masks!
You think the pharmaceutical companies are losing money off of this? You know about the Trovan trials, right? Nigeria, 1996. That's right. Pfizer went in and killed, what, I think 11 out of 200 kids that they were experimenting on. Do you think they face any accountability? Pharmaceutical companies don't face any accountability. The fact that we have millions of people lining up to take a product in which the manufacturer is immune from liability. There's no other product. There's no other consumer product on the market in which the manufacturer is immune from liability except vaccines. But you got millions and millions of people lining up to get experimented on. Is that really what 2021 is supposed to be all about? Is, you know what? I really want to donate my body to some open source science experiment, and in order to make myself feel better about it, I want to mandate that everyone else around me has to do the same thing. That's what 2021 is about? Yeah, I'm going to be in the streets. Thank you very much. That's not what 2021 is supposed to be about. We have to get back to solving our real problems. It's time to put the scamdemic behind us. Let's see. Look at this massive rally. It's just great to be part of such a mass gathering with people not wearing masks. I mean, after a year, you've all seen that meme. What could better symbolize the end of free speech, right? Than everyone wearing masks for no reason. We never should have gone along with the scamdemic in the first place. I think it's time we start throwing out the representatives who have been going along with this. What do you think? They've all been doing it. They've all been parroting the same exact lies. I don't care if you're at the county level, the state level, the federal government, they're all repeating the exact same lies. Knowing the election was stolen is not a partisan thing. This coup government is behaving exactly the way that we would expect a coup government to behave. They don't have our interests at heart. What's their agenda? Replacement? Pollute the ocean. That's all they did. Billions of masks in the ocean to make a handful of people feel better about themselves. Did it do anything? It didn't do a goddamn thing. Masking up your kids. Unbelievable. think we're going to be able to trust any of these election results. Why are they talking about a forensic audit in Arizona if everything was all good with the election? The very first policy that it wants to pursue, mandatory vaccination, rolling it out, untested. And then make it so you have to do this on a routine basis. Have you seen the Instagram advertisements? That has nothing to do with, oh my God, this is going to save your life. It's just about, let's all go out and get vaccinated, everybody. Yeah, it's just a thing we do on a normal, routine basis, right? Yeah, if they get their way. Oh, it's harmless. It's not going to kill you. Yeah, but what's the cumulative effects? How do you know what the cumulative effects are over time? Making it mandatory? Outrageous.
To evils, so let's go back to the Republicans. Folks, the Republican Party's been co-opted since the days of the Civil War. Come on. A government mandate only applies to the government. It does not apply to the public. Most people do not know that, but it's the fact, it's the truth. Government mandates apply to the government. They do not apply to the public. And again, the monsters that are in control are using lies and
elbow room back here? There were signs up in the gates months ago from the employees upset that the bars were closed, they weren't able to work. Why do we allow all these businesses to be shut? Oh, so the small businesses had to be shut down, but the major corporations never closed. Walmart never closed. The supermarkets never closed. They need billions of dollars off of this because all these small businesses were their competitors. Now they're gone. Do you think the banks are going to provide financing to get the economy back on the same footing, or do you think there's maybe a larger agenda? I'm not sure. Maybe I can find somebody to ask. We're here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The major city and the second most populous county in the state, Broward County. Here at A1A. The beaches are just completely packed, partly because the media keeps telling this narrative. Oh, here's my buddy. Julian, I need people to interview here. Buddy, I need a couple words. All right, this is my buddy Julian Espina. Julian, what brings you out here? Scamdemic, masks. What do you got for us before I start throwing some specific questions at you? What's off the top of your head about why you're here?
Well, I'm not partisan.
Right. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I'm more nonpartisan, and Julian's more on the left end of the political spectrum. I know you see all these flags, and you think, everybody's here Trump supporters and this thing and that thing. It's not entirely the case, and the evidence by myself more nonpartisan, and Julian's more progressive.
Yeah, I came here mainly to see people, what they were doing also to support the protest against forced vaccinations. I don't think that's right.
Absolutely.
I think it's really wrong to do that. Also, it's a lot of issues that people are still not aware of regarding what's going on with the virus and all this pandemic. Dr. Fauci, NID, there's so many things. So I think this is important. People are become more aware. There's a lot of mass censorship. Everybody's being censored left and right. Everybody's being ridiculed, called conspiracy theories. They don't know what they're talking about. Trump supporters. It's none of that. It's just really simple facts. You have to do your research, really understand what's going on, what's happening. There's a lot of people getting together to push big pharma's agenda. So a lot of money is involved. So we need to be more concerned about those things. We look at the big picture. That's what.
Boom. Thank you. Exactly right. I mean, at some levels, it's not that complicated. There's a handful of very powerful, corrupt people that have a global agenda, because this agenda is pushed in multiple countries at the same time. It's the same lines, the same products, the same companies, just in a different sort of global presence, right? And they have an agenda that they're trying to push, and our liberties are in their way. So you can follow the money. Look at Bill Gates Foundation. It's paying Fauci, who is the official advisor. You look at Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. She did an interview, I know, on CNN, MSNBC, one of those networks, and in the background was a pillow with Dr. Fauci's head sewn on it, right? So clearly, right, it's not a secret to say that that the governors are under the policy of Dr. Anthony Fauci. I mean, he's legitimately the federal government appointee liaison here. Now, when we go back and we did our research months ago in Fauci's background, we discovered that Fauci lied about AIDS in the 80s. So they needed him to lie about COVID-19 in the 2020. So they just pulled him back out of the box and dusted him off, and then he became the talking head. All of this is completely insane. We are allowing ourselves to be ruled by the most corrupt, evil people on the face of the earth with this terrible agenda that's rapidly diminishing our rights. And where we draw a line in the sand is right here. So thank you for being here, Julian. And I know it's about let's end those mask mandates, and we're going to say a very clear no to vaccine passports and mandatory vaccination. So we're going to simplify the issue down. Very good. All right, good. Good to see you here, buddy. I'm just kind of getting some interviews. How you doing? Do you want to say a couple words about the election? Oh well, yeah. No. I'm just a random guy. Live stream. Well, I mean, this is obviously the most fraudulent election in history, right? Oh well, because I've worked on campaigns. So what's going on with my camera here? There we go. Oh, there we go. I'm not reversed here. That's what I'm doing. There we go. So I've been on campaigns before, and I saw the videos coming out from the whistleblowers for example, in Detroit, Michigan. There was a woman in Detroit, Michigan who was shooting video of all of the ballot counters just in unison saying, "Stop the count, stop the count." They were all just chanting, "Stop the count, stop the count." It's like, this is a massive scandal. And the governor intervened, Gretchen Whitmore intervened, and, continue the count, certified the ballot results. So these ballot results were certified even with the statistical anomalies, the ballots arriving in the middle of the night, the fact that the numbers didn't make any sense relative to previous historic election data, the fact that there was no rallies. I mean, if we were having political campaign rallies.
How can they say that there's no evidence? There's a way they say it, context they say this so that they can say it online.
Right. Yeah, well, isn't it suspicious that two things you're not allowed to talk about on YouTube? I discovered this because I had videos banned for this, right? You're not allowed to talk about the scamdemic, meaning that's medical misinformation. So the perspective of alternative health practitioners, not allowed on YouTube. I discovered that from my live stream that I did at the Super Bowl for the V for Vaccine event.
The United States is not allowed in the United States?
Right. Well, I'm just talking about my particular channel. And secondly, you're not allowed to talk about election fraud. What does that tell you? I mean, don't you remember being able to use YouTube and all these social media platforms for so many years without systematic censorship, real-time censorship, algorithmic censorship? We're going to tolerate that. We're going to tolerate living in a day and age. I mean, I watched the rise of the .com era. We watched the rise of the social media era starting in about 2006, and now we're going to tolerate and then pass down a censored internet. We're going to accept a completely censored internet, stolen fraudulent elections. This election was stolen through mail-in ballot fraud. Period. It's the end of the discussion. And I'm not even saying that as a hardcore partisan. Paper ballots. So we're going to agitate in all 50 states to demand for paper ballots. That's the only way that we're going to be able to get rid of this. The notion that we have electronic software and voting machines, this goes all the way back to election 2000. Folks, do you realize that questions lingering from the election of 2000 were so strong that it was an issue in the governor's debate in 2006. The governor's debate in 2006, they were still talking about lingering questions for 2000. But now, a couple months after the election, you're not allowed to talk about whether the election was stolen. What does that tell you? Of course the election was stolen, which means that of course we should be suspicious of this forced vaccination, mandatory mask mandate agenda. Sorry? I studied computer animation, but I learned everything self-taught. I gotta get some more interviews, but thank you.
Do you have an Instagram I can follow? Yeah, because I'm a firm. Okay, and also, have you read the book, Gene Kuhn's The Eyes of Darkness?
Wait, is that the one that talks about? I remember in the very beginning of the pandemic, it talks about how it was like this predictive.
In around 2020, a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs and the bronchial tubes, and resisting all known treatments. Also, baffling than the illness itself will be the fact that it will suddenly vanish as quickly as it arrives, attack again 10 years later, and then disappear completely. This book was printed it was published in 1981, and published July 1st, 1996 by Berkeley. First published in 1981.
So what she's talking about, this young lady's talking about, is predictive programming. We know that predictive programming is going on, right? For example, you look at all of the 9/11 predictive programming in the cartoons. There's compilations on YouTube. You can go back and you can see. Yes, all of these shows, they have this kind of predictive programming where they appear to be talking about current events, and if they slip in all this subconscious subliminal messaging that helps sell the notions of things. So I did come across the memes about this called Teen Coots. What is that? The Eyes of
The Eyes of Darkness.
The Eyes of Darkness, right? So that's one of them. There's other films that it's as if they're trying to sell us on the democratic agenda. So it's very important to understand how fiction is used for this purpose. We are talking about predictive programming. I describe the situation in America as PSYOP land. I say we're living in PSYOP land right now because every single headline, it has nothing to do with reality. The media always had bias, but what we're dealing with now, this is a completely different world. And you know what keeps me up at night? I'm not kidding. I think a lot about how young people, you're so impressionable. I think about the changes that I've gone through over the years as you learn things. How on earth are young people supposed to figure out what's actually happening in PSYOP land when all the adults are seemingly going along with these fake narratives? How are young people supposed to find any kind of guidance when things are so far away from any kind of reality? Do you have any opinion?
Honestly, you have to do your own research. You have to go and don't believe one source. Look at all the other sources and then draw your own conclusion, because you'll realize what's truth and what's not. That's what I've done. And I've done so much studying with Julian Assange, when I was younger, and WikiLeaks, all that information that came out, that was for a reason. And we, as the people, we have a right to know what our government's doing and what the fuck is going on. That's my opinion. So stay informed.
Thank you so much. And I agree. I agree with that. If I were to try to explain to someone how I stay informed, I consider myself hyper-informed, in kind of a hyper-informed bubble. I don't stop reading. But I learned this years ago as we started seeing the internet censorship taking off.
If you notice, when stories happen, the internet, and you see the articles, they come out right away. But the thing is, after a while, the stories are constantly changing. And when I was helping and sending articles to, because I used to help NBC, one writer, send little due diligence articles, he would always tell me, oh, well, the attorneys, I don't know if we can actually display this media or display this article. And the thing is, why can't you display the truth? I'm getting more information on TikTok, on people's reviews, than CNN and NBC and any of that other bullshit. I want to know the truth. I don't want to sugarcoat it.
Thank you. Exactly right. This is the consciousness that needs to be the mainstream consciousness. We should be skeptical of power. That's what it is to be an American. It needs to be skeptical of power. It doesn't mean to just go along with ridiculous agendas. That has nothing to do with what it is to be an American. Being an American means being a free thinker, and you have to do your own research. What this young lady is saying is exactly right. It's a lot harder now than it used to be, because there used to be certain sites that you could recommend, certain alternative news sites that you could recommend, but a lot of those sites have been censored, and now you have to find experts. I'm on Instagram. It's just my name, Bruce W. Stanley.
Bruce W. Stanley, got it. Awesome. I'm definitely going to follow you.
Super. I do so well done. Thank you. So that was great. See, this is why I like coming to these kinds of events, because it's so inspiring. It really is, to just encounter people that are out there in the world. But it can be very easy to start thinking that we're isolated, alone. It's just, you're the only free thinker that's left, right? It's very easy to think that when you live in PSYOP land, right? When you come to an event like this and you meet and interact with all these kinds of interesting people, it reminds you that this consciousness spreads, but it requires work on our part because of algorithmic censorship. Algorithmic censorship, that's North Korea. How can we even make these kind of comparisons? How can we even talk about other countries as having restricted freedoms and liberties, as we've sat back and just watched our freedoms and liberties get eroded over time? How can we even use North Korea as an analogy for a repressive society, closed society, for example, when we tolerate algorithmic censorship here in this country around seriously important topics. Election integrity is a life or death topic, because that's issues of war and peace are bound up in election integrity. Medical safety, health information, this is a life or death issue. Getting whether or not you put your parent on a ventilator or give them ivermectin and HCQ is going to depend on whether or not you got the right information. Well, if we have, not just algorithmic censorship, but we have health practitioners losing their licenses for filing adverse vaccine reaction reports in the adverse reaction database. We have pressure being put on medical professionals. It's very surreal to think that we have bombed other countries for supposedly not having as much freedoms as we do, and we've just continued to allow our freedoms to keep getting eroded. So, as you can see, Americans are only going to take so much.
To unite as much as possible, to know that we are not alone and we have support of each other. In regards to masks, I want to ask you, please, if you have kids, if you don't have kids, write a message, write an email to our Governor DeSantis, requesting to stop masks in school, please. This is the only place where masks are not optional at this moment. I walk all year. I walk into any grocery store without mask. I walk outside without any mask. Me and my 7-year-old traveled through 17 states this year without masks, without restrictions, without any censorship, no social distancing. We were eating freely, shopping freely, and socializing. He does not know what oppression with mask is. And the only reason why he does go to school because of the mask and because they brainwash our kids to raise as slaves. They don't want free thinking people. They want slaves. I ask you all, please, write Governor DeSantis. We have Palm Beach conservative group. If you are from Palm Beach area, please join us. Google us. Don't use word Google. I'm sorry. Not that Google. Please, people, join and unite online as much as possible to feel each other's shoulder, to know you're never alone. Don't let us take us one by one. You know where we are. And let's hope that now, when CDC finally admitted that masks do not protect us from no viruses. This is on their official site. Please check it out. We need to use this opportunity to free our kids. I beg you, please, write our government. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Masks on kids in schools here in Florida. The beacon of freedom. Still. There's a big lesson here about how governments don't do anything unless you pressure them. And even then, what do you do about election fraud? That's going to be its own project. So Thank you, Amy. It's just so great to hear these things finally being said. It's so great to be out at an event like this where you have hundreds of people. I've been commenting about how refreshing it is to be out at a protest again. I forget how we used to sort of take this for granted. It's not that it's fun that you want to be protesting things, but there's a kind of an energy or a kind of a, it's about the political consciousness. Tapping into the political consciousness, feeling where people are at, and just meeting random strangers who you realize that you're on the same page with them.
Yes,
it's really,
and especially it's not just political. This is for all of you, for all of your freedom and your health choices and your rights. It's not just about, you know, a general election or which politician to vote for. Unfortunately, you'll see those flags here. But ultimately, the idea of asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic spread is really just healthy people to take off your mask, breathe the oxygen that you are entitled to. It is your birthright to breathe free, clean oxygen and not this toxic mask. When you deprive your cells of oxygen, you can get cancer. It's far more dangerous. So I love that we're here rallying for our breath of life, not just our political, you know, diversity, but this is for our breath, for our health. So I hope we can all come together on that. I implore you to keep following Bruce and any resources you can to help you learn more about alternative health sources. The CDC doesn't know everything. Trust me.
wow, this young lady has her talking points down, huh? I mean, isn't it incredible that the counties where they implemented a mask, right, versus the counties where they didn't, the cases were higher where they implemented the mask mandates. And they suppress this information, but it's not as if you couldn't find it out if you're doing any research. Every single thing that they told us, from hospitals overwhelmed to a deadly second wave to everything is a bunch of BS. It's just whatever the latest narrative is. It never matches up with reality. And you think by now, I mean, the way that if you take the vaccine, you still have to wear the mask. If you take the vaccine, people still are testing themselves as if they don't even believe that it's actually effective.
That is the most deadly virus and the most deadly pandemic of our lifetime. When I haven't worn a mask over my nose in a whole year and haven't worn one over my mouth in 5 months, and I live with 3 people over the age of 70 with multiple comorbidities. None of us are sick. This is the most deadly pandemic. How am I going home to 3 7-year-olds, 75-year-olds with multiple comorbidities, not wearing a mask, going to rallies, and they're not sick yet? You can judge me for that all you want, but at the end of the day, they're not sick, so this is not the most deadly pandemic. It's just not.
Thank you. I mean, it's true. The effect that this is having on kids, like you hear stories of, someone will go over to visit, their friend, and the kid will come down and be upset that there's someone else, a visitor is coming over, thinking that just having a visitor over is going to put the entire family, threaten the entire family. They're not young people. I remember sort of what it's like to be that impressionable. You don't have a frame of reference. So the psychological scarring that's happening in young people, you have to understand, 2.9 million people die every single year. If I just take a fraction of that number and put it on the television every single day, oh my God, inevitably it happens every year. But if we were to just focus on this particular type of death and then become terrified, who would have thought that this would be effective? I mean, you would think that we would all just wake up instantaneously and go after the people that are doing this. This is overdue. But somehow we stay hypnotized in the trance.
Yep, absolutely. And what you need to stay hypnotized by, truly, is true medicine. Expose the phonies. Expose this whole idea that wearing masks were suddenly healthy. Meanwhile, they're not talking to you about health-conscious choices that all of us can implement. You don't have to become a vegan and just start eating raw overnight, but there are just the vitamin trifecta alone, of vitamin D3, vitamin C, and zinc, and taking care of yourself and prioritizing your health in a way that is optional and, available for everyone. And notice how they don't want to talk about it. It's always fear porn. It's fear porn, fear mongering. Pay attention to this because it's a deep psychological tactic, just like Bill Gates recommending a book that says how to lie to people using statistics. This is the description of the book that Bill Gates recommended to people. He also recently said, this is factual, look it up, he said that not only should we stop shaking hands now, but we should stop handshaking for good in general as a species. Stop handshaking. Stop connecting with people. That's sickening. That is deeply in a psychic, deep psychological way. It's just sickening. And you have to ask yourself, what really more is going on? Keep asking yourself that because you'll find answers if you look. So, sorry.
Thank you. Boom. All these talks talking points, and I'm glad you brought up what it really. Let's talk about that. Staying healthy, you have to stay properly hydrated. Okay, nobody drinks the amount of water that they're supposed to drink. They're not drinking clean water. You got to monitor your acid and alkaline levels. Everybody is walking around over acidic. They don't realize that acidity will lead to inflammation, and by the time it gets to inflammation and you go to the hospital, you're screwed because they're going to get you on a prescription for life, and it's not going to address the issue. Some sun, vitamins, right? In this case, right, zinc, vitamin D were the main deficiencies that were leading to a lot of these cases and hospitalizations in the first place. So that's the information that they want to censor. They don't want you to know that your body's designed to heal itself if you stay in homeostasis. There's no, that's right. So that's at the higher level. The higher levels of this are these companies would not be in business if it weren't for our own irrationality and misunderstandings about our health. That is one of the key components of all this. That's why they're censoring the holistic health practitioners that have been like Sayer G and Dr. Andrew Kaufman and
don't forget Dr. Sebi. That was a little while back who died for
right. So they're coming out with lists. They're going to put you on a list if you're saying the wrong thing, right?
Why would they be so terrified? If they were such morons, they would let them, reveal how moronic they are. But they're censoring them. I mean, this is a key indication.
Thank you. I mean, it should. These are like clues that should wake you up. The fact that they censored the first study, the Danish mask study, studying the effectiveness of masks. The fact that the 3 biggest medical journals refused to publish it. This was months back. This was like five or 6 months ago. But when that happened, there is no more clear. I mean, it would have to be like the conspirator himself, right, coming out and saying, "Hi, this is us that did it." You could not make it more clear than that. So.
And the gaslighting every time someone does have a reaction to a vaccine, they're immediately like, "Oh, it's a coincidence. We're not sure yet what this is." Even within 24 hours, all that gaslighting. The pharmaceutical industry has been using gaslighting tactics for a very long time. It's not just COVID. It's disturbing. It's very sickening. Follow the money, and you'll see. You can trace, what's going on here. Oh, you said something. Oh, so how do we get effective? Like, how are we not just stay in an echo chamber? I feel like people like me and you, if we kind of are a minority, at least it feels like it on the internet, especially Facebook and Instagram. So how do we avoid being in an echo chamber and get these messages to people that don't already agree?
Well, the first answer that comes to mind is exactly what they've been trying to prevent. An event like this will do that because people who are not here are talking about this. Okay, it's a flashpoint. This affects people more than one person screaming right in a dark room. So these kinds of events, which is why they've been so desperate to sort of prevent these kinds of large-scale gatherings, because first of all, it would prove that there's no spikes. Remember, every time somebody tried to gather, oh no, there's going to be a spike. Oh, but unless it's a social justice warrior protest, then it's okay.
Right.
Like that doesn't cause.
I got canceled for having a Thanksgiving with my family. Meanwhile, there was BLM protests around the streets where governors weren't even wearing masks in LA and all that shit. Like, oh my gosh, it's the hypocrisy. Of course, we could make a whole segment of that alone, and we'd be here all day.
Yeah, I mean these are aspects of psyop land, right? The fact that the media is insulting you as it's lying to you, that's psyop land. When the media is, when you can tell that the media thinks that you're stupid as it's lying to you, that's how you know that you're living in psyop land. Thank you. So propaganda has been an issue. I mean, ever since there's media. I mean, the founding fathers were complaining about. I think Jefferson was complaining about newspapers, right? There's something. Don't believe anything is seen in a newspaper, right? So propaganda is always, kind of this back and forth. But what's going on now versus I'm 37 years old versus anything I ever saw in my life? I mean, they lied us into the wars. That's pretty bad, right? But psyop land, it's different. Now there's no true word spoken in psyop land. Go ahead, Robert.
We're not looking at a pandemic of a virus. We're looking at a pandemic of authoritarianism. What Bruce was just saying is a red line that's been crossed. A red line that's never been crossed before in history. It's the nature of government that it expand and expand and expand. But now it's crossed the red line. Now the chickens have come home to roost. Now there's war on the American people. by the imperialists in Washington. And it's time to recognize that that's what the pandemic is. Government run wild. It's broken the last barrier. And this is our last chance to push it back. We're looking at global totalitarianism. If we don't push it back, we must push it back.
Thank you so much for. Let's spend 1 second on that. It doesn't seem like the United States government is waging war on its citizens, right? I mean, here we are on the beach, enjoying a nice sunny day. What are you talking about? The government is waging a war against us, but it's doing so in an asynchronous way. It uses decentralized tactics to wage this war. First off, we're debt slaves, right? The national debt, 23 trillion and counting, we can never pay that off. So we're going to be taxed our entire lives to pay for a debt that we didn't accumulate. We didn't make those spending decisions. That has nothing to do with us. That's one of the ways. The hospital systems that's a sick care industry. The number 3 killer of Americans is medical malpractice. If you go in that hospital, I wouldn't do it. So medical malpractice is the number 3 killer of Americans. And it's the official medical establishment that we're getting all of this bad advice from. Okay? This is one of the ways that the government is waging war against us. Okay? The persecution of the Capitol rioters is another way. We're going to launch a nationwide manhunt over peaceful protesters. How you doing? Bruce, nice to meet you.
Hey, Mark Tance, Libertarian Party, Palm Beach County.
Libertarian, perfect. You want to introduce yourself or?
Yeah, Mark Tance, Libertarian Party, Palm Beach County, and I'm here in opposition to vaccine passports as well as in opposition to mask mandates.
Perfect. Yeah, I saw that you guys, the Libertarian Party, launched a solidarity kind of rally in coordination with this. I love these signs too about the mandatory vaccine passport. You heard that Nova Southeastern University wants to bring mandatory vaccination to its campus for this fall semester. Did you hear about that?
I did not hear that. Unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me. I've heard many college campuses are requiring vaccine for this in order to get back on campus, which I think is pretty disgusting considering that kids and college students, if they don't have risk factors, statistically have essentially zero risk of getting super sick or of dying. So this is kind of batshit crazy that they're making people shoot themselves up with rush gene therapy or even the J&J vaccine. Either way, I think it's kind of nuts.
Exactly. Young people need to build and develop their immune systems, which they do so by exposure, playing out in the dirt. It's a normal thing. The development of immunity is a normal thing. And we have these corporations trying to insert themselves into children's ability to develop their immune system because they're trying to sell a product, and we're going to allow this. We're going to allow this to be mandated for everyone? I don't think so. How is this going to play out?
I don't know, but, and I did want to mention another reason that I'm really strongly opposed to the mask mandates is, they just kicked a family off with a kid from an airplane, 2.5 years old. The kid wasn't going to wear a mask. This is insane. To mask kids and infants and babies, I'm really, really concerned about both psychological development as well as speech development for these infants who need to be looking at lips to gain development. I'm very worried that speech pathologists are going to have lots and lots of work in the decades coming up just due to this past year and if these mask mandates go on. Not to mention maybe bad things being inhaled from the masks, God knows, as well as just the general. It's hard to communicate with people. I'm a little hard of hearing. I probably read lips naturally, and it's been even more difficult for me by trade shows these days to converse with my clients because we're all covered up in face shields or actual masks muzzling their lips. So I'm worried about mask mandates and masks for a whole host of reasons.
Exactly. It's a pretty dark reality, isn't it? Where you have these powerful institutions trying to mandate the imposition of all this. You have to accept this potentially toxic treatment. No long-term studies for side effects. I personally wouldn't have believed that so many people would go along with it, but maybe it needs to get to this point. Maybe we shouldn't have lost 10,000 restaurants. We should have never tolerated mask mandates. We never should have allowed this to take one step forward. But now that it's been a year, now that we've arrived at the point that we're now experimenting on children openly, maybe now now is the point where enough of us are going to reach a critical mass and snap out of it and say, what's going on here? Why are we going along with this? Maybe enough is enough. Maybe we're sick and tired of this agenda getting pushed step by step by step by step. Yes, maybe that's what it takes. This is a dark reality, isn't it? We are openly experimenting on kids. That's the headline. Shots in little arms. Shots in little arms. What is that? What kind of message does that send to the rest of the world? We have bombed countries on the basis that we do elections better than you. Okay? Where are we at right now? We bomb countries on the basis that we have more rights than you. Where are we at right now? We can't even speak freely on the internet. We can't even breathe freely out in public spaces. Yes, the government is waging war against its own citizens, and yes, it's about time for us to reach a critical mass where we wake up and start pushing back against it.
If I may just suggest, we have Stephen Nicola here, chair of the Libertarian Party of Florida, if you haven't already interviewed him.
Super. Hey, pleasure to meet you. Bruce Stanley.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's going on?
My name is Stephen Nicola. I am the chairman of the Libertarian Party of Florida, and I came up from Key West today. I'm here in Fort Lauderdale to spread the gospel of liberty, to talk to people about the idea that we are free, beautiful, independent human beings with inalienable rights that are not granted by government, but are inherent in our very autonomy, and that the government wants to control us and to force us to comply with whatever arbitrary ruling that has nothing to do with public safety is simply a matter of control on their part, and that we should be actively resisting government's attempts to stifle our autonomy and our individuality by standing up for our rights, by speaking out, by running for office, by civil disobedience, by talking to friends and family members and coworkers and people you care about, letting them know respectfully, hey, I don't care if you wear a mask, I don't care if you get vaccinated, I don't care what you do with your body or with your life, just don't let the government force me to do it. If you've got a business, okay, if I walk into CVS, they make me wear a mask, it's their private property. I really don't care. If I walk into your house, you tell me to take my shoes off, I'm gonna take my shoes off. It's your private property. However, my body is my private property. I shouldn't be penalized or go to jail or get fined or penalized in any way by the government if they just decide one day that it's against the law not to wear a mask, or you have to stay home, or you can't open your business. Those things are not government's job. It's not their responsibility. I read a book about the Spanish flu last year. It killed 5% of the world's population. Masks didn't stop it. Quarantines didn't stop it. Nothing really stopped it. It was up to the private sector, the free market. People like you and me, the doctors, the scientists, the researchers, the first responders, the people that grow the corn, grow the food, everybody in society that's productive. Those are the people who work together to not necessarily stop the Spanish flu, but those are the people that work through it. Likewise, with COVID, the same people, the private sector, the actual productive members of society are the ones that can be working through this situation. Government can't do anything about it. Government can't legislate COVID away. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's why they use mandates to try to restrict our freedom in order to try to attempt us to, I don't know what they think they're really accomplishing because it's not working. But their only method of trying to stop this is through government use of force, which is to say using the law or the common force against the individual. So I want to make that very clear. I'm not pro-mask, I'm not anti-mask, I'm not pro-vaccine, I'm not anti-vaccine. The libertarian position is, look, it's your body, it's your life. We're all going to have to make decisions. We're all going to not agree with each other on something here or there, one way or another. Let people live their lives. Keep the government out of it. If you wear a mask, you have a right to wear a mask. I'm going to help you in your right to get the government out of your life. I hope you do the same for me. That's my message. That's why we're here. Impotentes defender liberatum non passant. Those without power cannot defend freedom. Done.
Wow, thank you. Very, very well said. And that's exactly the key point. It's very easy to take for granted our liberty, right? But what we're born in America, so end of story, end of discussion, right? What we've seen, I think if we're getting a lesson here, it's that people who are not prepared to defend their rights are prepared to lose them. And it requires requires having this political dimension, a dimension of yourself, or a civic dimension. I use that word politics a lot. People immediately think partisanship. I'm thinking about the bigger picture of your role as a citizen. Okay, it's not a passive role. You have a role as a citizen, and every once in a while you have to step up and into that role. And there's a reason why they took civic education out of the schools. It's so that we would be vulnerable and unprepared and unequipped to fulfill those roles, because those roles are when people power meets concentrated financial power. Concentrated financial power has been mulling this over for centuries about how to create a civilization, how to create an environment, how to cultivate an environment of slaves, basically, of essentially debt slaves, or how would you describe this? Citizens without the civic, or...
I have a quote saved on my phone. It's from the philosopher Albert Camus. Albert Camus was very much a proponent of individual freedom and individual liberty. And Albert Camus, he says, every insubordinate person, when he rises up against oppression, reaffirms thereby the solidarity of all men. And what that means is that when a single human being stands up for what is right, for what is just, it gives permission to others to also follow behind them, to also allow them to engage in a civil manner. So it's very important in your own communities, in our own immediate lives. You know, we're not going to change the world tomorrow, but we can change what's right in front of us today. Is to get involved at a civic level, at the local level, at the county level, at the state level, wherever you can best make a difference, in whatever capacity you can best make a difference. To go out, be the voice. If you decide to run for office, get engaged, get educated, learn, and understand the philosophy of freedom, because there's a lot of people who might understand, oh, well, you know, I'm going to vote this way or I'm going to vote that way, and I think my way is right, but what's the philosophy behind what's your ideology? Dig into the root. Life is like when you drill into a piece of wood, right? And you've got that electric drill, and you drill, and it kind of goes, and it short circuits, and you're only like half an inch into the wood. A lot of people stop right there. They don't continue to drill, continue to learn, continue to try to get to the truth. So continue to drill, continue to refine your beliefs, and understand the reason behind what you believe, and not just supporting some figurehead or some person, but understand it at a deeper level. With that, it'll be your guiding philosophy, help you navigate life, help you navigate politics. For me, it's libertarianism. For you, find your own truth. We might agree, we might not, but dig. That's my message.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Exactly. When I think about my own personal history, thank you so much for all that. I mean, it started off volunteering for small causes that felt almost inconsequential. It almost felt, you know, oh, they're going to cut the budget for the libraries, you know, so you participate in that little campaign, and maybe you show up at a meeting, right? But you learn something by participating in that little campaign. You learn public speaking skills. What's the number one biggest fear? Public speaking. If you're going to be a citizen, I'm sorry, you need to expunge with that. Okay? I'm an introverted person. It wasn't comfortable for me at first when you're standing speaking in front of a group of people. It's very intimidating. That's why it's the number one fear. But if you're going to be an effective citizen, you're going to need to find ways to get over that. And participating in small campaigns is a lot of people's entry point. You work with your fellow citizens on a common goal. This is completely different than just being a mindless consumer, okay? The more that we can flex this muscle, the civic engagement muscle, the better of a picture, the better we're going to be in for when some powerful agenda comes along and wants to disrupt them, right? And so that's the lesson here. They keep catching us off guard, but if we can, it's up here. The info war is for your mind. The war to poison our bodies is here, but the info war is about our minds. If they can confuse us, if they can convince us that we're something other than informed, engaged, patriotic citizens, we will optimize for that rather than what we really need. So yes, we live in PSYOP land. Yes, the mainstream narrative is always a lie. It's just assume that the 180 degrees the opposite, or whatever the mainstream media is saying, is probably the truth. And if we can reinvigorate that informed skepticism in the American character, we might be in a better position to repel the next agenda that comes along.
Last word before I let you go. I call it the Fight Club effect. What is the Fight Club effect? For those of you that ever watched Fight Club, Tim Norton, the main character, he rebels against society, his life, his boring life of consumerism. He goes and he starts Fight Club. What do all these young men start doing? They join Tyler Durden, and they join his cult instead of the culture cult, the bigger cult. They go into another cult. The idea, at least one of the themes of the movie, is that just because you're against culture doesn't mean you're a free thinker. It all comes from independence. It comes from learning how to think. It learns from thinking for yourself, and even your closest group of friends or ideological friends, you should still disagree with people. You should still think, why do I believe what I believe? Dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and you will find your truth. And that truth changes over time, but you will be much further along than anybody else. And on the topic of public speaking practice, I've been public speaking for, 8 years now. I still get nervous, but it's a very important component because your voice has value. Your voice has value, and people want to hear what you have to say. So get out there, speak your truth, keep drilling, dig deep. Stephen Nikhil, Libertarian Party of Florida, signing off. Thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Again, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Really good talking points in there.
Are you on the YouTube channel? Or
yeah, I'm on Bruce Stanley on the state of Florida, and Bruce W. Stanley on Twitter, Insta, Facebook.
Bruce Stanley?
Yep.
Awesome.
Superman, appreciate it. I'm going to get some of these closing thoughts here, but good to see you around.
So it's February this year. The cops came to my house over a Facebook post. You know what I said in that Facebook post? Thousands of masks. The mayor of Palm Beach County requested the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office to come to my house at 10:30 at night to intimidate me over a Facebook post. For those of you that do not know, currently there is legislative that is happening in Tallahassee that stuff going on. Obviously, in the past year, we've seen America get worse and worse and worse. I just want to remind all of us, keep having our faith, not on man, not on people, but on the Lord. That's the only way we'll get through this. And things, this is only the beginning. Things are only going to get worse. But with God, we're going to keep going.
Everything is about the Kalergi plan. I mean, everything is about the Kalergi plan.
By the Constitution, by the United States,
you know about
God.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's going on.
God bless America.
Demographic change is going to screw all of us, and they know it. That's the ultimate.
Hey guys,
Who is they?
we've had some problems with
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you something. There is a massive push for freedom in our local Republican Party here in Broward County. And one of the guys that is leading that charge, this guy's awesome.
It's biblical.
It's
sad that we're
he is a
not
veteran, and he is amazing, and he's going to give us a few words. Come on, Bob.
And the inability to talk about it is basically preventing us from being able to
How's everybody doing?
you know? Not being able to talk about it.
How's everybody doing?
Especially here, I won't even be able to fully talk about it here.
Right.
It's really rare that you're able to admit that.
Yeah, well, there's different kinds of consciousness in the
The reason I'm out here is also at the same time, it's about freedom. Now, everybody you guys out here, this is good time. We're here from different areas of the country or different parts of Florida. But it's more than just coming together. It's about taking action. And if you're here to really want to get involved, please follow Brad Richard's team. I was fortunate and I have the honor of having the largest volunteer group here in Florida. We had over 500 volunteers involved in support the president. Now, you may see that.
He's really cool.
So, here's the thing. It may seem that, yes, we live in a county like Broward County, that's very little. But, we made a significant difference on a statewide level. Meaning, we actually were able to get 75,000 more votes this past election than we did in 2016. More so, we also have to support our local candidates. Our local candidates need our support. And actually, I want to introduce to you one of our patriots that's running for office. Her name is Jenny Hay, and she's here to tell you why she's running for office. So everyone, please, welcome to Hay.
Everybody says it's red, but if you live down here, you don't feel it, right? I was in Tallahassee on Thursday. I drove up and back in one day to go and sit and talk on our election integrity bill that's going through right now. You know what I saw? I saw state representatives sleeping. They were sleeping while constituents standing and talking to them.
Okay, so we're starting to slowly wind down here. Once again, we're here at Fort Lauderdale Beach at A1A in Las Olas. Beautiful day. The beaches are completely swelled because everybody's here because the perception that we're the only free state, but as a lot of our speakers are pointing out, we still have the mask mandates in place. A lot of that's a smokescreen, like everything that the media says. Wolfgang. I think we're starting to wind things down here. Great rally. We had some great interviews today, and it's a really great energy that's out here. It's a beautiful day here at the beach. I mean, this is really the gateway to the beach. I think there's a wedding going on over there. It's just beautiful here, except, oh yeah, that's right, the war that's being waged against us. Yeah, I understand. It's easy to just take your mind off of it, but when it gets us when we're alone and vulnerable. Which is why we need to unite against it. So, in closing, hopefully they got the message in Tallahassee that we're sick and tired of the mask mandates, especially in schools. We do not want mandatory vaccine passports, and that includes private businesses and institutions like hospitals and cruise lines. So no, the answer is no. Bruce Stanley, Million Maskless March, signing off.